Next up on the agenda, session entitled, Does Your Business Have a High IQ? So I'd like to introduce our speakers for this one. Priscilla Kekaritz is the CEO of EnergyPrint, and Brian Lillard is a vice president with TDIndustries.
Thank you.
Guys.
I was joking with Brian that when I have a big room like this and a small group of people, I usually make everybody get up and come down front. But you guys look mostly comfy, so as long as you promise you'll interact with us, we'll leave you where you are. So yes, I'm Priscilla Kekaritz. I'm CEO of EnergyPrint, and with me is one of my customers, Brian Lillard, from TDIndustries in Dallas, Texas. We're out of St. Paul, Minnesota. And we're going to talk about business intelligence and reporting and the impact of being able to use your utility data in new and fancy ways. So I think, let me pop in here. There we are again, just in case, you didn't know who we were.
Yeah, forgot who we were.
Yeah, exactly. So today what we're going to do, we'll do a brief introduction just so you know who both of our companies are. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about business intelligence tools. I do have one question. How many of you guys are familiar with the concept of a business intelligence tool? Okay. How many of you, your company has already adopted a BI tool? Just what have you adopted? Tableau? Anybody else? Periscope? Okay. All right. Anybody looked at any other ones? Just click. All right. So we're going to talk about, not Periscope too much, but we're going to definitely talk about Tableau, Click, Microsoft BI. Some of you guys might be familiar with that. So hopefully we'll give you some good ideas about what's out there and some ideas on how to review and select those if you haven't yet gotten into that as a business. And then Brian is going to talk about kind of a twofold case study that we work on with TDIndustries with one of their clients and get into practical application of what EnergyPrint's adoption of BI has meant for TDIndustries.
Yep.
So I think, though, we start out, Brian, with you talking about TD.
Yeah, just a little bit of background about myself. I've got 30 years of real estate and facilities experience and have been in the outsourcing space for facilities for 25 plus years of that time. So in the last session when they talked about you still need people, I'm those people. So don't get rid of us yet. But right now I'm the VP of Facilities Management for TDIndustries. TDIndustries is what we call a life cycles facility company, and I'll talk about the different business units we have within our firm. Been in business for 73 years, have 2,600 employees, and are predominantly in the Southwest. So Texas, Arizona, and Colorado are where we're based today. Do that. There we go. So the lines of business that we have, facility management, the group that I lead, we service corporate facilities, healthcare, education, both higher ed and K through 12. Our mechanical construction business, we build stadiums. In fact, we built Mercedes-Benz Stadium here in Atlanta. Currently working on the Texas Rangers ballpark in Arlington. Corporate headquarters, data centers, and healthcare. So our construction side is predominantly owner direct. So we mostly work with owners versus investors, multi-tenant type facilities. We have a specialized piping business line that works with the semiconductor industry, medical, food and beverage. And then our truck-based business is service. So your air conditioner breaks, they come out and fix it. You have plumbing issues, they're the guys that come out. So we have 500 technicians and they handle everything from equipment upgrades to planned maintenance of equipment.
All right. So we've been working with TDIndustries for 3 years, and they are actually a perfect example of EnergyPrint's typical client. So EnergyPrint's been around since 2009, and our goal is really to make utility data useful for our clients. We primarily serve mechanical contractors, service professionals, energy consultants, people who actually do things in buildings and have solutions to offer. And so our job really is to be that administrative support for them to make sure they have the data in the way they want it, where they want it. And as you all know here at a conference for Urjanet, benchmarking and utility data isn't rocket science. It's just really hard work. And so when we look at how we support our clients and making that data useful, our goal is to not have Brian's engineering team tracking down utility data, trying to get it into spreadsheets, trying to get it analyzed and teed up for them to actually do something with that data, but to take all of that hassle out of it for them. And when we work across 4 pillars of service. So 100% of our clients use our utility data administration. And here's where our sweet spot is. A lot of you guys use Urginet. Urginet is amazing and awesome. We've been working with them for 5 years. And if we've got credentials and they can scrape it and they can send it to us and they can automate, we love them very much because they make our lives easier. 50% of the data that we manage, though, is manual. Manual request. Some of it we get faxed from little municipalities in small towns, and it requires a large amount of data stewardship and data governance. So EnergyPrint's sweet spot is really working across the diverse number of utilities and working with clients who they just need it handled. We were joking about one of the water providers that we track for Denton schools, which, it's literally a call to Sue once a month on the day after we know the bill drop saying, hey, will you fax us account number XYZ, because that's the way they do it. That's their third-party process. So outside of that, the majority of our clients use our dashboard, but not everybody. We actually integrate our data into other applications. So we have clients who have already adopted other software or built things themselves. And so we will do all the data management across the 2 automated and manual data platforms and push that into whatever systems they want to or need to use that they've already chosen. The third piece, which is actually what we're here to talk about today, is the analytics platform. And I'm going to dig into that in a minute. And then support. EnergyPrint is first and foremost a services company. So a lot of us in the room are software companies. We have software, but we look at software as a delivery vehicle, and the services is really around both the onboarding, data stewardship, and then the support of that data, especially for our big contractor clients. So, had a few more people enter the room. We talked about, I know I've got Tableau users in the room, Click users in the room, Periscope users. Anybody else in the room who uses business intelligence software today, BI tools? Yeah. Metadata? Metadata? Power BI? Okay. Pardon? Looker? Okay. So top 10 BI tool leaders today. So this is one of Select Hub's most recent lists. And I think that pretty much all of the companies we talked about, Looker's actually on the next segment of these. They had a top 20. But BI tools really came into the marketplace as big data. The last group was talking about, for the last 10 years, we've been trying to get our arms around the data, right? Get the data housed someplace. Now we're trying to figure out how to use the data effectively. And so BI tools have come into the market because we don't always want to have to build proprietary software just to create a reporting engine. EnergyPrint came to a position a few years ago where our customers were asking for custom reporting, and we were trying to figure out what more to build from a software platform. We were looking at spending between $500,000 and $1 million to create a widget that would only serve about 50% of our customer needs. So we decided instead to go look at what was emerging in the market, which was these BI tools. And we really looked at who the best companies were in the space, and then did tests, demos, and then trial runs with several of the platforms that were available. And Gartner, from a best reviews perspective in the last 12 months, has really kind of teed up who the top BI companies are, especially when it comes to visualization. So this particular top list I pulled based on companies who rated BI tools for their ability to create visual analytics that are pleasing to their customers. And you can see on the top of that list, Microsoft Power BI, Tableau, ClickView, right in that top 3. And so that is where we actually spent our time as we looked at the analytics platforms. And we really demoed Power BI, Tableau, and Click. We ended up adopting Tableau because of its visualization and creative capability. So from a report perspective, we were really interested in creating pictures out of data that non-energy people, non-building people, sometimes not even business people would understand. So I come from a background before I got into this industry that had none of that experience, and so I've always kind of been my team's guinea pig. If they could put a picture in front of me and I look at it and go, oh, I know exactly what that means. Thumbs up, we won. If they set it down and I look at it for more than 20 seconds, they just pick it up and walk away and go try again. Because the whole goal with visualization is to be able to paint that picture that covers 1,000 data points. So BI tool selection criteria, we really focused on 5. This is a great passion.com and all these links. I think they publish these decks, so I made sure to put my links into the PowerPoint presentation so you guys could find these. They actually have a survey that you can walk through that helps you identify what the best criteria or the most important criteria are for your organization when you look at BI tools. But of their list of the top 10, 12 things, we wanted something, obviously, that worked in the cloud. That was essential for us and our customers. And then we wanted the core functionality. And for us, core functionality was being able to use whatever data sources we wanted to plug into it, being able to make them talk to each other easily, and then being able to create those really highly visual, interesting pictures. Predictive analysis and data mining, to me, those are givens. If you're choosing BI tools, you better have those things. And then usability, and then searching and alerting. A lot of our customers, they need us to actually run alerts out of Tableau to be able to notify them when things are changing in the data. So those are just some of the selection criteria that we use to adopt Tableau. And then what we really want to talk about next is how that actually makes sense to help companies better manage data, reduce time, and impress their clients, which you guys did on Tuesday night.
That's right.
Oops. So Brian, why don't you tell us first about Denton School District and who they are, and then I'll let you walk through the 2 parts of this case study.
So Denton Independent School District has been a customer of TD's for about 20 years now. And if you don't know, Denton's about 25 miles north of Dallas, and 40 years ago was a farm town county seat. It is home to the University of North Texas, but there wasn't much else going on there. Well, over the past 30 years, growth has come from Dallas to Denton. It's now the second fastest growing county in the state and will soon be the fastest growing, which makes it probably in the top 10 in the country. The school district itself is in the top 10 fastest growing districts in the state. Just 10 years ago, or 12 years ago, 3.5 million square feet. It's now at 6 million, and they're continuing to add schools. They're at about 40 schools, 45 total locations across 186 square miles. So the county itself and the school district extends almost into the Dallas, direct Dallas area. It serves several utilities. I don't know the exact number, maybe 9 or 10 different utilities from water and electric and gas that service the district. And so we have a team of 25 individuals that work day to day at the school district. And as their service provider, we provide them people, but we also are looking for opportunities to add value, and that's how EnergyPrint came into play as a tool and as something that we can use to prove our value. Oops, did I go too far?
So I can just give a little premise, because you joined TD after we were already in place. And so the original purpose for bringing EnergyPrint in was that they had an engineer who was spending about 80 hours a month messing with utility data. And so from an engineering time and resource perspective, that was a huge investment of time that he needed to be spending on other clients, other projects, and not just this single client. So our first problem that we were brought in to solve was make his job easier and reduce how much time he spends. So why don't you talk about what we do for Brandon?
Yeah, and that's a great point, because sometimes people say to me, well, you're just looking at utility bills. Well, we're not just looking at utility bills. We're looking at 40 utility bills from 10 different providers, some that have electronic access, some that don't, some that you have to call and get a fax from, and that's if she showed up to the office that day. So from our perspective, we were utilizing someone in our engineering department at a pretty high billable rate to the school district that was spending hours upon hours pulling that utility data and putting it into reports for the district. And so now his time is greatly minimized. It's more he's able to actually look at the data and help us come up with solutions to lower energy costs rather than just the actual physical inputting of the data into spreadsheets.
Yeah. So the problem that we identified, if you want to click through these real quick, is just Brandon had utility data overload. I mean, that had become his life, and he didn't like it. In addition to what with the data, what he couldn't get directly from the utilities, he had to bother the people at the school district for. So it wasn't just a matter of his inconvenience. He had to inconvenience his client to go dig up some of these bills. So we really wanted to eliminate all of that interaction that was happening and eliminate the slow, tedious process and get him to a point that he was using things. And so the solution was get EnergyPrint to centralize this. If you want to click ahead, Brian. Get us to centralize this data, get it all in one place. And then the next piece was make his job easier to actually sort through the data. So the next slide is just one image from the reports that Brandon has on a regular basis. So once we get an entire month of normalized data available, he has an admin that actually can go through and sort through and eliminate things that are all okay and really highlight for him, here's where the anomalies are, here's where buildings spent too much, here's where the electric bills were too high or the gas bills were too high or water had some kind of an anomaly. So now instead of doing all of his effort just to get the data put together and report it, he actually spends a very small amount of the time he used to spend working specifically on anomalies that help these guys bring value to their customer.
That's exactly right. This report allows us, my team, to take action and minimize the effects of any issues that might be occurring. A good example, we'll talk more about the board meeting I went to the other night, but was where there was a water leak. And in our board presentation, we referenced the fact that a particular school had a large reduction in water usage from the year before. Well, it was because the year before there had been a water leak, and we were able to fix that for that one particular month because we found out about it. Otherwise, it might have been something that had gone on for a number of months before it was discovered.
Right. So the second part of the case study, and again, I'm going to let Brian talk more about what it is because he was actually at this meeting on Tuesday night. But part of our response using Tableau to create the kinds of reports and visuals that were needed by the school board was every 6 months, they have to go in front of the school board as part of their big meeting and present utility data in a way that these people who are educators and community people can understand. And it's really a report card of TDI's performance for the school district in managing all of these 40-some facilities. And so, again, this was a time-consuming process. Typically, they would spend the better part of a month just prepping the visuals and putting this stuff together in a way that was somewhat understandable. And so that huge time investment went in, and they were still struggling to end up coming out of that with the school board having understood the picture and the presentation. So EnergyPrint's job was to create those visuals every 6 months, and we refresh them on a semi-annual basis, so they always have a fresh viewpoint to take to the school board and talk about what the results are. So I know we've got a few visuals of what you guys just presented on Tuesday night, but maybe talk about what that experience is like to go have to share this with the school board for 5 hours.
Yeah, or if I'd stayed the whole time longer. It's interesting because you sit through these school board meetings and they spend half their time talking about full day pre-K. And your mind just wants to explode because you don't understand what they're talking about. But so the key is since that's what they spend most of their time talking about, is to be able to present them with images like this that they can quickly understand. Because they're educators, they're a doctor, they're a realtor. They're not in the business of managing and operating buildings. And so with Priscilla's tool, we're able to generate these graphics that tell the story very quickly and easily and get the point across. And if you look on this particular slide, the boxes in red, that's all we did. Priscilla's program generated the rest of it. So we went from having to generate that graph and that data analytics ourselves to just pushing a few buttons and then adding some boxes to highlight some trends.
Right. And the great story with this on this chart is, again, just to reiterate, the square footage that you guys manage has gone from, what, 3.5 million square feet to...
3.5 to almost 6 million. And if you can see the utility usage, and this is all because of this information, we've been able to, in the last year, drive the total utility usage down, even though the square footage has gone up. And particularly the cost per square foot just continues to go down. And without this information, maybe we're doing a good job, maybe we weren't, but now we're able to prove that we are.
Right. I think it was just last year you guys renewed your contract with Denton for another 5 years.
Right.
So having this information, especially in the hands of our partners who are working with those big facility groups, it's absolutely critical.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a couple other charts here. Maybe you could just talk to how does the school board respond to this information? What kinds of questions do they have, and how easy is it for them to digest?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I talked about kind of their diverse backgrounds, and so part of you might think that, well, they're not going to have a lot of great questions because of that, but they do. They remembered, I remember why last year gas was high there, or why water was high. And they understand what's going on. So in this particular case, when you look at the effective rate of gas, it's gone down. Well, we had a milder winter, so they certainly understand that. And consumption went up, so that kind of, I'm sorry, the effective rate of gas went down because of obviously the natural gas market, but the consumption had gone up because we'd actually had a pretty cold October and November. And then, of course, the ability to normalize the information helps a lot. And then from the cost standpoint, we were able to show that we'd actually reduced energy usage for the year. And it's just a quick snapshot, and they get it, and they understand it.
A few talking points and a couple of pictures.
Yeah. And then this is one that they really got excited about because it identifies schools, particularly the ones that had the largest decrease in usage and the ones that had the highest increase. And the great thing is there were explanations for all of them that were the outliers, and they understood that, and they certainly appreciated the fact that the majority of them were going down in usage. One thing to point out too, the top highest cost per square foot. Again, I've only been at TD for a year, but they all knew why. They all knew that building. It's the oldest building. They have single pane windows, limited insulation. So they all understood, okay, we can't wait to tear that one down because it's just an expensive building to operate. Oops.
Excellent. So, we've had a great experience. Again, we're in our third year, going into year 4, working on this project, and with you guys getting the renewal in your contract, we're riding along with that, and we're just going to continue to work on these analytics to keep telling a better and better story and bringing that visibility of business intelligence really to the school board, and putting it in the hands of TD allows them to bring great value to their clients. So that's the story we wanted to tell. We'd love to take questions either about applications, EnergyPrint's experience in test driving different BI tools, or certainly Brian will take any questions about what they do from a service perspective.
You guys have been talking a lot about the best way to manage the data, bring it in, obviously integrating with UrgentNet, and then visualizing it with tools like Tableau. We do a similar thing in my company, but where we find kind of a hurdle, the next hurdle is in interpreting the data, right? So you need engineers and people with experience operating buildings to do that, obviously, but sometimes you're looking at a building that you don't know that much about. So I'm curious to know, especially from TDIndustries' perspective, what you use to track that data, the information about a building, because unless a building engineer has been there for a long time and knows off the top of his head, why that spike might have occurred, it can be, the value of the data is much less.
Yeah, I mean, so I gave a few examples of that institutional knowledge that everybody remembered the water leak, or they remembered this, that, and the other. So we as a group, we run a what we call a CMMS, Computerized Maintenance Management System, and we track all of the activity related to just planned maintenance or repairs or any issues with any equipment or any buildings. So through that database, we maintain that knowledge that we can go back and take a look at in the future if we need to.
And if they've got key events that they want to note, because when they have those spikes or big differences, they can put some of those keynotes into our system too, which translate into Tableau so that it's a reminder. So if a different engineer was working on a project years from now, if there were key events that they wanted to denote, somebody could look at data and see a spike from 3 years ago and know, oh, that was that water issue, or that was that construction project. And so it's kind of a partnership where we try to at least get the big anomalies. If there are spikes, we try to make sure those are notated so that, ideally we answer 90% of the questions, and then some of the other stuff, they have to dig deeper into the data. But the goal is how fast can we get the simple answers up here? And then obviously, they've got robust systems to track a lot of information that we're never going to see.
Yeah. Does EnergyPrint allow customers to create their own visualizations, or do you create them all? Because Tableau was kind of developed as a self-service BI tool. Do you guys create those for TDIndustries, or do they have the power to do that themselves?
So today, our agreement with TD is we are their BI experts. So when they want to do these, we build these environments that then they can maintain and utilize. We do have a couple of clients who have BI teams and do a lot of that analytics, and those are more of our data clients where we're doing all the data standardization the way that they want it. Then they can consume that data and do additional reporting with the teams that they have. So it varies depending on our client and their level of sophistication or just technological adoption. Some companies want to be able to develop their own, and some, they just want it served up to them so that they can concentrate on taking care of their customers.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
This is more for Brian. Are you guys operating on an OEM or like a shared savings? And would that change the value of the data for you?
So we operate on an O&M budget with the client. We don't do some of our clients, we have shared savings models, but in this particular one, it's an O&M.
Would the BI report in a shared savings scenario rather than a report card scenario?
Yeah, I would think so. She might be able to talk more about that. From our perspective, we use it to show our value. Sometimes facilities can be seen as a commodity, and so we want to prove our value to our customer, not only in our day-to-day operation, but in the ability to respond and react and recommend actions that can help them save their energy.
Yeah. In this particular contract, utility reporting and analysis it's one of their contractual requirements is to have the report card. So we were built into the contract, whether their engineering time does the work and has to deal with that expense, or they utilize us, which we're actually a lesser expense than that engineering time. They had that baked in. We do work with quite a few performance contractors who use our data either within our platform, or many of them use metrics, the Abraxas tool, because they get into option A, option B, option C, option D, cost avoidance. And in those cases, again, we're doing the data governance and providing them the data, and then providing some checks and balances on the whole building level. The biggest thing we do there from a Tableau perspective is alerts on anomalies. They usually have very specific things that they want us to, anytime an electric bill hits the system that's more than 10% deviance based on this, and this, email me now. So that's a lot of what we're using Tableau for, is really notifications to help them deal with rear-view looking data as fast as they possibly can, because it's going to impact either the checks that get written to them or the checks they have to write back to their client.
Brian, working in the school system, are you doing anything at all with curriculum or students and teachers as far as savings initiatives within the school system?
So we aren't directly. The school district has an individual that runs programs for the district along those lines.
From a BI perspective, are you able to run kind of
more granular BI. I mean, you showed some examples using cost and consumption. Do you pull in line item build data, and what are some examples of more advanced analyses you'd run?
Yeah, so we do a lot on demand analysis now. That seems to be a big one for our customers. The other thing, because EnergyPrint manages all the data that we do, our database is highly validated. We actually guarantee a level of validation for our clients. So we've tracked over 5,000 buildings. So we have a very robust database of portfolio-like building, current through the current month normalized period. So we do a lot of portfolio analytics of saying, hey, this building, how does this building compare to like buildings in the region, similar size, similar use? Then we have some clients who are getting into a little bit more custom analysis where they want to bring in student headcount for schools and correlate to that. Healthcare, a lot of them are looking at patient bed count and some other metrics. We have one industrial client that started looking at widgets because they run multiple facilities and they wanted to be able to compare buildings based on how many shifts they were running. And then not just shifts, but how many widgets were going out the door from the docks. So we're getting into more and more of those kinds of requests to bring in another correlation set besides weather data. So besides correlating to square footage or normalizing based on square footage and doing weather normalization, then what's the business metric that matters most to that building, and does it matter? And so continuing to go down that path is where we see most of our custom analytics.
Thank you.
Have you added Tableau to your web portal, or are you just sharing the links with your clients?
So we haven't embedded it yet, but that is in our roadmap. So we've got more and more clients requesting custom dashboards. So we ultimately see that our reporting engine from a proprietary platform is really just a platform. And then, of course, we have customers who've already adopted business intelligence platforms, so feeding information to them to fuel theirs. So our mission is to make the utility data useful. So we're really trying to be nimble and agile. We collaborate and work with other software companies in our space. People who 5 years ago we thought were competitors are now channel partners and customers because we really want to ultimately serve the customer's need and be that data partner. And of course, for us, UrgentNet's a huge piece of that because 50% of our data is automated, which makes everything move a lot faster, and a little bit smaller data operations team. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you very much. I hope you guys enjoyed the story.